It arrived in a plain brown box, no branding, no invoice. Just the doll, swaddled in black tissue paper. I'd paid a small fortune for it on a shady online forum dedicated to unique collectibles. They called it the Lacrimosa Labubu, the weeping one. As a serious Labubu collector, I thought I'd seen them all. The strawberries, the skunks, the pumpkins. But this was different. This was a grail. The sculpt was the standard open-mouth version, but the paint job was hauntingly custom. Instead of a mischievous grin, its mouth was a small, downturned oval of distress. Its eyes, both wide open, were looking up as if in supplication, with glossy, clear resin tears streaming from them down its vinyl cheeks. It was morbidly beautiful. I placed it in the center of my display cabinet, a stark, tragic figure among the cheerful, colorful crowd of its kin. The first night, I noticed a faint smell, like ozone after a storm, and something else, salty, like the sea air. The next morning, the weeping began. It wasn't constant. Just a single perfect droplet would well up in the corner of one eye, swell, and then trace a path down the tear track on its face before falling. I watched it happen at 10:17 a.m. The droplet landed on the polished wooden shelf with a tiny, almost inaudible plink. I leaned in, fascinated. This was beyond any gimmick I owned. An hour later, I returned to the cabinet. Where the tear had fallen, the wood was wrong. It wasn't just stained. The varnish had bubbled and peeled back, and the wood beneath had turned soft, dark, and spongy like rotten fruit. A small patch of fuzzy gray-green mold was already growing in the center. My scientific mind raced. Some kind of acid? A chemical reaction? I carefully moved the lacrimosa to a glass isolation plate. I had to understand. The next tear fell at 3:45 p.m. I caught it on a stainless steel measuring spoon. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then, a faint sizzle. A tiny pit of corrosion appeared in the metal. The droplet itself evaporated, leaving behind a gritty, crystalline residue. I touched it. It was sharp and burned my finger like a minuscule shard of salt. This wasn't a chemical. This was a curse. The decay wasn't just physical. It was accelerated, unnatural. I tested a drop on a leaf from a houseplant. The leaf withered, blackened, and crumbled to dust in under a minute. A terrifying idea took root. I placed a single raw shrimp from the fridge on the glass plate. One tear fell on it. The shrimp didn't just rot. It decomposed in fast forward, melting into a foul-smelling slurry in front of my eyes. I was no longer a collector. I was a curator of a biohazard. I decided to get rid of it. I wore rubber gloves and sealed the doll in a large Ziploc bag. As I carried it to the trash chute in my apartment building, I felt a profound sense of loss warring with my fear. It was still the centerpiece of my collection. What if I could control it? I stopped. I couldn't. This was insane. I opened the chute door, the bag in my hand, and I heard it. A sound so soft it was almost a vibration. A hiccuping, shuddering sob coming from the bag. I looked down. Inside the plastic, the lacrimosa was crying in earnest now. Not single drops, but a steady flow of tears that were pooling at the bottom of the bag. Its expression seemed to have shifted from despair to pure terror. It was looking at me, pleading. I couldn't do it. What if it ended up in a landfill? What if a child found it? The responsibility was mine. I brought it back inside. That night, I had a nightmare. I was trapped in my display cabinet, surrounded by the smiling, judgmental faces of my other Labubus. The lacrimosa was outside, giant, its tears falling like rain, each drop causing the floor to boil and decay beneath me. I woke up with a jolt. The smell of ozone and salt was overpowering in my bedroom. My heart hammered. I turned on the bedside lamp. It was on my nightstand. The lacrimosa. I had left it on the glass plate in the living room. It had moved. The glass plate was still in the living room. The doll was here, standing on the wooden nightstand, facing me. A small puddle of tears had formed around its feet. I scrambled out of bed, my pulse roaring in my ears. In the lamplight, I saw the damage. The wood of the nightstand was blighted, a spreading stain of rot where the tears had fallen, and the rot was creeping. Slowly, inexorably, like ink through blotting paper, it was spreading towards the edge of the nightstand, towards my bed. That's when I noticed the pain, a sharp, stinging sensation on my arm. I looked down. I must have brushed against the nightstand in my sleep. A single tiny droplet of the lacrimosa's tears was on my skin. It wasn't burning like acid. It was necrotizing. The skin around it was turning a sickly gray, withering. I frantically wiped it away, but a small dark patch of dead tissue remained, like a frostbite scar. I finally understood. It wasn't just weeping, it was seeding decay. It was a focal point for entropy, and its sorrow was contagious. Now I keep it in my bathroom, in the empty bathtub, surrounded by a moat of glass Petri dishes to catch its tears. I have to collect the crystalline residue daily. The air in there is thick with the smell of the sea and ruin. The grout between the tiles is turning black. It cries more frequently now. It knows I'm its keeper. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear its soft sobs echoing from the bathroom. It's not just crying for itself anymore. I think it's crying for me. It knows what's coming. The patch on my arm hasn't healed. It's gotten bigger, just a millimeter, but I measure it every day. The skin around it is cold and numb. The decay is inside me now. It's only a matter of time before I start to weep myself, and I'm terrified of what will happen when my tears begin to fall.